Our legal panel, always interesting. Trial attorney Misty Marris is here with me in New York. Former federal prosecutor Michael Zelin joins us as well. Michael, why don't I start with you on this testimony that's happening right now as Caitlin points out that this retainer, this retainer that Cohen was supposedly under was not for legal purposes. It was all for the Stormy Daniels NDA. So is the prosecution getting what they want out of Mr. Cohen here this afternoon, you think?
So far, it seems like it's going in perfectly well for them. They've started off by humanizing Michael Cohen, because remember, there's been so much said about him that was disparaging leading up to the trial and even in the trial, gratuitous things by Hope Hicks and Westerhut. They have made Cohen out to be a bad actor. And so what they have started with is Michael Cohen is flesh and blood just like us, and we should approach him with some open-mindedness. Cohen then goes on to say that he loved working for Donald Trump. It was like the best job he ever had in his life, and he was remorseful when it ended. But it ended, and he is here now to tell the truth of the circumstances that led to it, being the payment of Stormy Daniels, the Access Hollywood basis for that payment, and how it was reflected fraudulently on the books and records, and that Cohen lied about it and went to jail as a consequence. So I think everything that they've done pretty much is well scripted.
They're trying to connect us all right back to the election, which has really been a key in all of this, Misty. And I want to put up two examples from the testimony earlier today and see whether or not they've been successful in your view in doing that. First, about Cohen testifying that Trump was worried about his candidacy for office. The prosecutor, Hoffinger, says, did he express to you any concern about negative stories about his personal life that might affect his candidacy? The Cohen answer to that is yes. And then after, Misty, I think this is the one a lot of people are going to be talking about. I want to see if you think it's damaging to Trump or not. Michael Cohen on the Stormy Daniels story. Cohen said it was catastrophic. Those are his words, catastrophic in his testimony. It's horrible for the campaign. Going on to say, I told him one of the things we need to do, obviously, take care of it. And he said, absolutely do it. Take care of it. Does that connect this? Because that's what you've said throughout. It has to be connected back to the election to have an underlying crime.
Right, because in this case, an NDA and these catch and kill, it might be seedy, it might sound scandalous, but it's not illegal. So the only way you get to falsification of business records for the purpose of covering up another crime is for there to be some other crime. Now, presumably, that's going to be some sort of campaign finance violation that this wasn't properly reported.
Right.
In order for that to be valid, it has to be because of the election and the election only. So
this is not getting there or getting close to that
Well,
point?
This is what needs to go on the record in order to establish that it's about the election as opposed to being about anything else in somebody's life where they might want to suppress this type of story, your family, your reputation, your wife. So this is the first step in that direction. I think Michael Cohen, what prosecutors are going to need to elicit from Michael Cohen is asking exactly that. What, in fact, did they believe they were furthering another crime? What is that other crime? What was in their head at the time?
You mentioned his wife. That's the other part of it here, with how the Cohen was asked about how the Stormy Daniels story would impact Melania Trump, right? And the Cohen quote on that was, and this is from his testimony today, don't worry. He goes, how long do you think I'll be on the market for?
Right.
Saying Trump said that. And he says, not long. And then he says, Cohen now again says he wasn't thinking about Melania. This was all about the campaign. This is Cohen's testimony, so you have to believe Cohen.
Well, this is Cohen's testimony, if you believe it. So that's number one. It's not about Melania. There was another part of his testimony where he said Trump wanted him to get this payment, kick it down the can along the road as long as they could, because Trump said, if it comes out after the election, I don't care. So that would link it back to the election. And that's what this testimony is. Now, keep in mind, this is all Michael Cohen saying that these were conversations with Trump. So it requires the jury to believe that in order to get to a conviction.
Which gets Michael Zelin to Michael Cohen's credibility in all of this, that this is his testimony. He's saying, as Misty said, that this was going to be catastrophic for Trump's election at the time in 2016 election. He obviously did win. But you have to believe it's not necessary. It's not coming. That's not part of the recording, in other words, from Trump. That you had to believe Cohen on this. So his credibility is key here, right? Is he credible?
Well, yes and no. Yes, so far I think he appears credible. But to add on to what Misty said, which I agree with, is that almost everything that Cohen has testified to has been corroborated either by other witnesses or documents. And so you cannot like Michael Cohen. You can think he has a grudge. You can think this is a revenge campaign. But everything he says is supported by documentation and other witnesses. So I think that, yeah, the more credible he is, the more likable he is, the better it is. But when you get to closing argument, prosecutors are going to say, everything that Michael Cohen told you is true, and we'll show you how, document by document, witness by witness, how they are all corroborative of what Cohen has said.
I also think it's interesting, Misty, that they're going to say, obviously, in the cross that the guy is a liar because he's been convicted of lying. But the prosecution tried, I don't know how effective it is, they tried to get out ahead of that today.
They had to.
Right. They said, yeah, did you lie about this? Yep, I did. Did you lie to the bank? Yep, I did. So to your point, they had to do that.
Right. They asked him right out the gate. One of the first questions was, "Did you ever lie for Donald Trump?" And he said, "Yes, ma'am, I did."
Right.
And I did willingly. So
did the sun come up this morning?
Right. So that's a critical piece, because keep in mind what the jury instruction is going to say at the end. The jury instruction in New York is going to say you can take any witness, you can believe some, none, or all. If you think someone's lying in one part of their testimony, you can think they're lying in all of it. So what the prosecution has to do is get ahead of, this guy is admitting to lying. He's saying he's been a liar. But because of the other corroborative evidence, you should believe that these particular instances relating to this payment are true.
And again, going back to the campaign, they're getting into some of that now about Cohen testifying in a phone call with Hope Hicks about how to, quote unquote, change the narrative after the McDougal story came out of the Wall Street Journal. And Cohen says the strategy then was to deny. So they're trying to connect this back, both McDougal, Stormy Daniels, that it was going to be a campaign issue. All right, we'll pause it for now. We'll come back to this, obviously. We thank Misty and Michael, and we'll have more of the courthouse from Caitlin as we get more information from there. But